Hey, so on this tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite homemade instruments, which is this Suitcase kick drum. I've been using this one for years and years, both acoustically and plugged in. And so I'm going to walk through step by step how you can create something like this. And then I've got some special secrets at the end of how to make it sound huge, like if you're playing with a band or playing through a PA. So here we go. So I'm sure, as you can imagine, one of the first steps of making a Suitcase kick drum is to find an adequate suitcase. Check garage sales, check marketplace on Facebook, Craigslist, that kind of thing. Usually you can get them pretty cheap. I mean, I think I bought this one maybe 10 bucks or something like that at a garage sale. I've seen them both this way and this way, people that have made them before. So I think I've seen actually a lot of people use more of the hard plastic case ones that are a little bit bigger. I like the compact size of this one, but find a suitcase, and in my opinion, the more vintage the better. I think one of the more challenging things I had to figure out on my own was, how do I get hardware stuff attached to this thing? I mean, at some point you want some sort of way, like a kick pedal to hit this thing. The other thing I discovered is it slides all over the floor without something to kind of anchor it to the floor, and some other things. So I'm going to show you some of that. So this part right here is actually what I came up with for the anchor. Parts of it are, and here's what I mean by an anchor. It's just these, this is more typical for like a real bass drum, and these, it just slides on here. These spikes here would be if you're on carpeted surface, and then you can just flip this around. You know, if you're on a hard floor of some sort, so you're not digging into the floor, and that keeps you from sliding around. So this part and this part are, you buy them together, and again, they're just called a bass drum anchor, I believe. But then I was like, well, how do I attach it to a suitcase? So I had to experiment a little bit. Right here is a door hinge is all it is. So I just doubled up, and you can see what's going on there, and basically just screwed right into the bottom of the bass drum, but that gives you a lip for this anchor to hold on to, which has actually worked fantastic. And so some of these other pieces are from Home Depot as well. These little bumpers on the bottom, again, kind of help to grip the floor, but kind of raise it up a little bit so this stuff isn't scratching on the floor. And then on the other side here, it's another kind of hinge, basically. So you've got, I've screwed it in here, but this gives you a lip to attach your bass drum pedal to, like so. And then you just tighten it up on there. And you're good to go. The one thing I did have to do, just to help those teeth grab on a little bit better, those teeth right there, just added a little hardware right on the middle of that, just to give it something more to grab hold of. And but again, has worked fantastic over the years. Never had any issues with it coming loose or anything like that. So you may have noticed already, right up front here is a hole, and this hole isn't necessary. This would be maybe what's called a sound port. I've seen a lot of guys make these that don't have a sound port. I guess for me specifically, knowing that I wanted to plug it in, wanted to play through a PA, it was really helpful to have this sound port to be able to have a place for the microphone to go, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But honestly, it did provide a little bit more clarity, even acoustically, once adding that sound port in there. So this little thing up at the top is kind of a unique thing that I wanted to just add. It's just it's another hinge, and it's got a little butterfly thing on there, but that allows me to hook this miniature tambourine up on top, just to give it a little high-end jangle when you're doing the kick. So when I mic this kick drum, to be able to go through a PA system, I usually use something like this, a Shure SM57, to be in the sound hole like this. But this picks up most of the mid to high frequencies, but doesn't really pick up the super low kind of sub-bass frequencies. So I have actually a second source built into the inside of this thing that will pick up the really low frequencies. And man, I read about this somewhere online, I don't remember where, but it has been so cool to have this work. So as you open it up, you've got all kinds of, you got an extra XLR cable here, and this is a speaker, and you're probably wondering, what in the world does he have a speaker on the inside? So here's what I read years ago, and it's actually true. If you get a speaker, and this was again something I picked up at Goodwill or something for a couple bucks, if you take a speaker and you reverse wire it, it becomes a microphone instead of a speaker. And so, but it doesn't pick up the frequencies that this picks up. It picks up really low frequencies. So the combination of this and with the combination of this just makes this huge sound when you plug it in. And I'll give you a couple sound examples here in a little bit. So I had to kind of experiment with, how am I going to mount this thing? I just grabbed some wood and kind of cut it to the right size, and screwed it underneath the wood to kind of hold it in, and then I've got some bolts going through the side to just hold it in place. So it's always in the drum, and I still have room over here to store everything that needs to go inside. And I also I suppose I could have put an XLR port somewhere on the side, but I just kept a 20-foot cable attached to it and put a little groove in here so I can actually run this outside of the drum right in that groove, and then when I close it up, it's not pinching the cable and it's just ready to go. So I've got the Suitcase kick drum mic'd up now with the SM57 on the front by the sound port. And then we also have the sub kick, the reverse wired speaker on the inside plugged in. So I'm going to play a little bit, and then I'll give you each signal individually and then together. So let's just hear just the sub kick part of it all by itself. And now here's the SM57 on the by the sound port. And then let's hear them together one more time. Well, thanks for watching this video. I hope you learned a few things. If you're trying to make your own instrument, actually I'd love to hear from you if you use some of these tips and tricks to make your own Suitcase kick drum. So have fun. See you next time.